Hello and welcome back to Ghost of the Webway. So after a small break, we're going to continue our look at every unit in that Harlequin's Codex in the cast in order of appearance. Today we're going to start looking at the Skyweavers. They are pretty much the most powerful thing out there at the moment in terms of the Harlequins, and we're going to look at them in some detail. So let's start with the lore. So let's start with a little bit from the Codex. So in Eldari mythology, the Skyweaver was the youngest and most capricious of the cosmic serpent's brood. The cosmic serpent is a significant totem to the Harlequins, for he is said to have existed in both the material and psychic universes at the same time, and his strange and capricious young acted as occasional allies to Kogorak. Depicted as a gestalt being composed of hundreds of small flying serpents, the Skyweaver spoke always in riddles, and was forever hurried and distracted by his myriad desires. As a boon to the laughing god, the Skyweaver is said to have scattered himself across the heavens, each facet telling a subtly different tale of Kogorak's deeds. Thus did the Skyweaver spread confusion among the laughing god's foes, striking down many with its fiery bite when their backs were turned. So this is kind of going into the Eldari mythology that kind of backs up what the Skyweavers are, or what they're supposed to represent within the performance of the Harlequins. In more layman's terms, they're essentially two Harlequin troops on a bike. And they're supposed to spread confusion, they're supposed to be harrying the foes at top speed, racing around and basically causing all sorts of trouble. So that's kind of the idea behind the Harlequin Skyweavers and what they are supposed to represent. So let's have a little look at the stats for the Skyweavers. So they have a movement of 16 inches, they have weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 3, toughness 4, 3 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 8, and a 4+ save, which is a pretty good stat line. I mean, there's a reason why these guys are considered the most competitive unit within our codex. This unit contains 2 Skyweavers. It can include up to 2 additional Skyweavers or up to 4 additional Skyweavers. So we can have a unit of 2, which would be the most basic, or we could have a unit up to 6. Let's look at the weapons. They are equipped with a shuriken cannon and a star bolas. What you can do is, for any model, you can replace the star bolas with a zephyrglaive, and you may replace the shuriken cannon with a haywire cannon. So let's have a quick look at those weapons. So the haywire cannon has 24 inches range. It's an assault D6, strength 4, -1 AP, 1 damage weapon. But if the target is a vehicle and you roll a wound roll of a 4+ for this weapon, the target suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to any other damage. If the wound roll is 6+, the target suffers D3 mortal wounds instead. So this is very, very nasty against vehicles. Anyone else who already has used haywire weapons, it is a very, very powerful ability. The shuriken cannon is a 24-inch assault 3, strength 6, 0 AP, 1 damage weapon, but if you make a wound roll of a 6+ for this weapon, the hit is resolved with an AP of -3. Kind of like the Shrieker Cannon Shuriken profile for the Death Jester as well, if you remember. Out of these 2 weapons, though, there's definitely a reason to upgrade to that haywire cannon. The zephyrglaive is a melee weapon. It has strength +1, so making them strength 4. It has -2 AP, and it has flat 2 damage, which is a very, very nasty melee weapon. Great against things like Primaris. And the star bolas, last but not least, has a range of 12 inches. It's a grenade D3, strength 6, -3 AP, damage 2 weapon, which is pretty good, to be fair. They have the abilities Rising Crescendo, where obviously they can advance and charge, and they can fall back and still shoot and or charge, same as every other Harlequin. They have Blur of Colour, which means that when they advance, they add 6 inches to the move characteristic instead of rolling a dice. This is really good. Think about it, you've got that 16-inch movement already, so that brings them up to 22 inches. They have a hollow suit, so they have a 4-up invulnerable save, and they have mirage launchers. Your opponent must subtract 1 from any hit rolls made against this unit in the shooting phase. So they're a really, really powerful biker unit, actually. I mean, you've got that 4-up invulnerable save, which gives them a bit of resilience, and 3 wounds too, and they're -1 to hit. So they're quite difficult to chew through, actually, like in terms of the unit. They've got a reasonably high leadership, they've got good strength if you put the Zephyrglaive in, and they've got nice different selections of war gear. So let's go into how you might want to run those Skyweavers and what might be a more competitive choice for you. Now, Skyweavers, as I've said, are probably the most competitive choice that we have in the entire codex. There's a reason why when you see Eldari soup lists, you often see 18 of these in support of other Eldari units like Craftworlds or Drakari. They are very, very powerful. And the standard loadout that you're going to use is probably the Zephyrglaive, which is this thing here, and the Haywire Cannon. You could put Shuriken Cannons on to save on points, but quite honestly, you have enough Shuriken Cannons in the rest of your army usually, and that Haywire Cannon is something you just don't want to miss out on. So you definitely want to take that Haywire Cannon. I would also run Zephyrglaives and maybe a Star Bolas if you want to save some points and you have a particular idea in mind. Remember, you can only actually use 1 Star Bolas because it is a grenade weapon. So essentially you would be sacrificing shooting with your Haywire Cannon or whatever other cannon with one of them to be able to fire that grenade. Personally, I tend to run them all with Zephyrglaives, but lots of people say add 1 Star Bolas on and it saves you 6 points, and in the end it can also be quite a nasty little weapon too. It's certainly not bad. Now, most importantly, we have a stratagem that works incredibly well with the Skyweavers that pretty much everyone uses, called Prismatic Blur. And Prismatic Blur means that if you advance, that you can increase the invulnerable save to a 3-up on the bikes, which means that they have a 3-up save, and they have 3 wounds each, and they have -1 to hit, making them very, very durable. And this is obviously a reason to take particular masks, because that stratagem combined with a couple of different masks can actually be really quite powerful. So if you are going for the standard competitive list, most people will go for Soaring Spite. And the reason for this is because with Soaring Spite you can advance and still shoot at your maximum ballistic skill, which means that you're not hitting on 4s, instead you're still hitting on 3s when you advance, because usually you'd get that -1 to hit. They're assault weapons, so you can still shoot, so it's all good. So yes, Soaring Spite is a very good option. It gives them a lot of speed, maneuverability, and still quite a lot of firepower, which is a pretty powerful combination. There's also another aspect with a Prismatic Blur. Now, the Prismatic Blur stratagem states that you only need to use it when you advance. It doesn't specify a phase. And if you use the Twilight Pathways power, you can advance that unit as well in the psychic phase. So you can actually use this stratagem twice. That means you've got 2 units, maybe 2 full 6-man units, that can essentially have a 3-up invuln save and shoot as though they haven't advanced. It's a very powerful combination, and there's a reason why it has been seen quite so, consistently, let's say, throughout 8th edition in the meta. It's not, however, how I run them. I like to run my bikes as Frozen Stars. I still like to use Prismatic Blur, and I'll use it on 1 of my units. I might use it on 2 if I want the charge. And I use my bikes as a bully unit to find something small and annoying or a big bunch of troops or whatever else and just smash them in there and deal as much damage as you can. The main issue there is that obviously you're being then attacked in the shooting phase and you're going to be attacked in the fight phase unless you pick the right unit for it. If you can wrap something, obviously that's the best way forward, but it can be quite difficult because they have these very large bases, so it can be quite difficult to trap something in combat to protect them from extra shooting. So what I like to do is to get the most out of them whilst they're in every phase. So I want them to be able to shoot well. I want them to be able to fight well. I want a troop master nearby to give them those rerolls to wound, because actually that Zephyrglaive, as I honestly think it might even be the best weapon they have, because the Haywire Cannon is a random shot weapon, which is fantastic at times if you score well, but if you roll badly, then it's not really doing what you want to do. Whilst 4 attacks with a Zephyrglaive is a pretty powerful charge. So that's sort of how I like to run them. You could obviously try different ones as well. You could use things like the Silent Shroud on your on maybe a single unit, because then you can advance, you charge, and then you pop the stratagem so that your enemy can't overwatch against you, and you've got a unit of maybe 6 bikes basically just blocking off shooting from an entire army at times. If they're castling, if they're just all in one little huddle, that can be a really effective way of making your Skyweavers just mess up your opponent's plans. And it is a very potent combo. So those are the Skyweavers. There are plenty of different options with them, plenty of different things that you can do with them. They are fantastic units. How many you run is kind of up to you. Most people would say run a minimum of 12. I run the full 18 because I just think they are a fantastic, fast, powerful, hard-hitting unit. But let me know, how do you use your Skyweavers? Do you use less of them? Do you use more of them? Is there a mask combination that you like? Do you like Dreaming Shadow, for example, to allow them to shoot when they die? Do you like the Midnight Sorrow to make sure that they can, interrupt even more of your opponent's plans? Let me know in the comments down below. Like and subscribe. I've been Kit, and thank you very much. Bye.